You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 123. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there and welcome. We are so happy to have you here with us today. In this episode, we are going to be sharing some strategies for self-care that are realistic in a teacher's life. So I don't know about you, but I've been finding that it's been a little bit hard this year to devote time to self-care. And sometimes it actually feels almost like more stressful to try to fit in self-care than it feels to just not do self-care. But it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. So in this episode, we are talking about self-care teacher tools, so the self-care teacher toolkit that will help you to de-stress in 5 minutes or less. Now, before we get to this episode, we're excited to share this week's sponsor, which is EduCalm Classroom. EduCalm Classroom is our online social emotional learning and mindfulness resource created for the classroom. So when Josiane and I first started teaching mindfulness in our classrooms to help our students to self-regulate, to manage their emotions, to help them to learn to focus their awareness on one thing at a time, we had a lot of trouble finding good resources out there. We found that, we'd spend hours on YouTube and not really be able to find guided mindfulness practices that were the right fit for a classroom or for our students' ages. And then maybe once we did find a video that we liked or an audio that we liked, there was just that one audio and there wasn't any continuity. What we wanted was a resource that helped us to teach mindfulness to our students in small bits each day in a structured way, just like we teach anything else in the classroom. There needs to be structure to it. There needs to be a continuity to it. We need to be building skills one after the other. So since we couldn't find this resource that we were looking for, Josiane and I decided to create it ourselves. So we created EduCalm Classroom, which is an online bilingual English and French ready to use mindfulness and social emotional learning program. So all you have to do is log in, press play, and listen to a guided mindfulness practice along with your students. These guided practices are 2 or 5 minutes long, so they fit easily into your classroom routine, and they help everyone, both you and your students, to thrive in a calm learning atmosphere. So you do not have to be an expert in mindfulness to be able to use this program in your classroom. You can get started right away. So you can get started with the EduCalm Classroom free trial right away. That's going to give you training on how to use this resource and the access to the first unit of our full year program. So you'll get access to the Introduction to Mindfulness unit to use with your students. And that free trial never expires. Now, if you enjoy that, then we invite you to sign up for a full year membership to EduCalm Classroom, which is going to give you a guided mindfulness practice and lots of great supporting resources that are created by teachers for real life classrooms that you can use daily in your classroom to build self-awareness, to build self-regulation, to build wellness, mental health in your classroom in a really realistic and structured way. So to get started with EduCalm Classroom, go to educalm.com. That's spelled educalme.com. And you can either sign up for the free trial or sign up for the full membership. Again, that's educalm.com. All right, let's get into this episode. So this is actually going to be a solo episode with me, Kaylee. And the main reason for that is that because we're in lockdown where Josiane and I are right now, we aren't able to go into each other's homes to podcast together. So we actually recorded this whole podcast, and then thanks to the wonderful realities of technology, the recording did not save. So we lost the whole thing, and we were having all sorts of problems with the video and audio cutting out as we were recording. So we decided to just accept the fact that it wasn't flowing and take option number 2, which was to record episodes separately on our own. So welcome to this solo episode. Now, I want to start by saying from Josiane and I, Happy New Year. It is 2021. We are getting started with a new year. And I don't know about you, but we are really excited to kind of start fresh this year. Last year was such a year of learning lots. It was like a year of newness, and the amount of things that we had to learn to catch up to the changes in education was pretty overwhelming a lot of the time and quite exhausting. So in this past year of dealing with the realities of teaching in a pandemic, one thing that has become really clear for Josiane and I was the importance of our self-care practices. Now, this year, I was teaching a new course, new grade, in high school. I'm very excited to be back teaching in high school, but there was so much newness. I was at a new school, or a school that I was at before, but I'm back at again. I haven't been at this school for, I think, 5 or 6 years. So a lot has changed since I was there before. Great to be back. But the beginning of the year was just overwhelming with newness. Plus, one of the courses I'm teaching is fully online. The other course I'm teaching is a hybrid model. And it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. So one thing that I found kind of overwhelming this year was actually finding time for self-care, or not even time, but like making the choice of what self-care practice to do. So sometimes I would come home at the end of the school day and just feel really tired and like, okay, maybe I should do some yoga. Maybe I should go for a walk. Maybe I should read. Maybe I should journal. And I would sit there kind of contemplating what I should do. And then in the end, it was like too overwhelming to make the choice. And so I just didn't choose anything. And I would, either work more or go watch television, which didn't really make me feel filled up afterwards. So what I started changing with my mindset was kind of having like a list of go-to self-care activities that didn't take too much time and didn't feel overwhelming to make the choice to do that thing. So Josiane and I have both kind of been in the same boat, and I'm guessing that you're probably in the same sort of boat as we've been in this year, where self-care can actually sometimes feel overwhelming even when you know that you need to do it. So as Josiane and I were chatting about this and talking about this, we kind of came up with this idea of, what if there was this resource that was kind of like a grab bag that you just reach in and you pull a self-care tool out, and that's the one that you do. It would remove the stress or the overwhelm of choosing a self-care activity and just give you the ready-to-use thing that you can do before your workday, during your workday, after your workday. And as we chatted about this, we came up with this idea to create a resource for you called the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit. De-stress in 5 minutes or less. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the strategies, then the toolkits that we've included in this resource. So these strategies you can for sure start using right away, Or if you are like, yeah, it would be great to have this in more depth and something that's really easy to use and top of mind and I can use every day, and removes the stress of decision making, then maybe you'll be interested in getting the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit for yourself so that you can use it. So the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit is organized into themes, or what we're calling toolkits. Each toolkit offers a different self-care practice that's going to help you process and manage your emotions mindfully. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, tired, or just kind of in need of a quiet moment during your day, you can log in, choose one of the toolkits that feels kind of like it's calling you today, and then enjoy 5 minutes of self-care. So it's wellness that you can really fit into your daily routine. So I'll explain now what these different self-care practices are, what these different toolkits are, and these are things that you can start using right away, or like I said, if you want kind of a concrete strategy, so you don't just forget about all these strategies tomorrow, but you can keep coming back to kind of this touchstone, this grab bag of resources, then I'll also explain kind of what this looks like in the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit. All right, so our first self-care strategy is guided mindfulness. So mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment on purpose. It's a practice that you can do all on your own. You can practice mindfulness in tons of different ways through tons of different activities. But for myself and for Josiane, our favorite way really to practice mindfulness is by listening to a guided mindfulness practice. So that means that you have a teacher that's guiding you through an exercise that helps you to connect back to the present moment, to notice your feelings, to be aware of how you're feeling, and to accept that that's how you're feeling, and to then be able to kind of hold yourself with kindness and compassion in whatever it is that you're dealing with in that moment, and develop strategies to help you process those emotions and those sensations that you're feeling. So the intention with a mindfulness practice isn't necessarily to shift you out of the emotional state that you're in. It's really to practice being okay with where you're at, accepting where you're at, and then kind of developing ways to support yourself. So in the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit, we have a guided mindfulness practice for you that I recorded. So it's my voice guiding you through a 5-minute guided mindfulness practice. And this practice is called One Breath at a Time. So we're really having a calming practice to help reduce feelings of overwhelm by coming back to the sensations of breathing. And as we pay attention to our breathing, one breath at a time, it helps us to connect back to this present moment. And when we're focused on noticing our breath, the sensations of our breath, how our body feels in this moment, it shifts our attention away from that to-do list and that pile of things in the future that has to be done, and helps guide us back to what's really happening right now. So, many of us teachers are experiencing the stress response throughout our day a lot. So it's very important for our mental and physical health to do practices that actually help us to shift out of that stress response, to process those stress hormones, and then to kind of neutralize our nervous system, to help our nervous system come back to the rest and restore state so that our body can focus on long-term well-being. So guided mindfulness, there are, lots of guided mindfulness resources out there. We even have a couple podcasts with guided mindfulness practices that you can check out from the archives. So there's lots of places that you can get mindfulness practices for free, but sometimes the large selection of mindfulness practices that you can choose from can feel overwhelming. So in the self-care teacher toolkit, you have this one guided mindfulness practice to come back to whenever you're feeling like guided mindfulness is the tool that will be useful for you today and in this moment. So the next strategy that Josiane and I love using for our wellness, for our self-care, is journaling. So journaling is a great strategy. You sit down, set a timer for 5 minutes, and you just write. The great thing about journaling is it can help you process emotions that you might have not even known were there. So one of my favorite times to use journaling as a self-care tool, as a wellness tool, is when I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Like I've got a million things on my mind and they're just, it's overwhelming, all the things that I'm sort of holding on to in my brain. And once I sit down and journal about it, I find that once I get it down on paper, oftentimes it isn't actually as overwhelming as it seemed in my mind. Or another practice that I really like doing is a brain dump, where you just sit down and you write for 5 minutes straight without editing, without judging what you're writing, and you just write and write and write without even thinking. This is a really great way to get out emotions that you might have not even known were there because you were sort of stopping them from coming to your awareness as a way of, sometimes we judge our emotions. I wouldn't say sometimes. Lots of times we judge our emotions. We say, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't feel overwhelmed. I shouldn't feel sad. And you can talk yourself out of your feelings. But when you do a journaling exercise and you just get the things out, sometimes I have these moments where I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know I was feeling that way. No wonder I'm, just feeling this discomfort in my stomach all week. There's something that I'm holding on to that I haven't been letting myself process. Another time that journaling is great is kind of when you're feeling meh and you want to feel better. You kind of want to get into that bright, sparkly feeling. Journaling about good things can help you to feel that way. So in the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit, we have journaling prompts for you. So when you're feeling like, journaling might feel like the right thing for me, you go into the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit and open the journaling toolkit, and you'll see journaling prompts. And we've created prompts based on how you're feeling and how you want to feel. So you can choose a prompt based on, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. Okay, let's choose a prompt from the overwhelmed page. Or I'm feeling low energy, or I'm feeling like I want to feel better than I do right now. You can choose a prompt from there. Super easy. You grab the prompt, set a timer for 5 minutes, and journal for 5 minutes. It's a great way to process your feelings, which is so important. We have to digest our feelings just like we digest our food. Feelings, emotions are actual chemical messengers that are moving around in our body. They aren't fake. They're very real. They're very biological, and they actually shift our biology. When we're feeling stressed, there is a cascade of things that change in our body when we have the stress response. So it's really important to kind of find tools that are going to help you to process those stress emotions, digest them, so that you can shift into a different state. Another tool that has been so important for Josiane and I in our own self-care is the practice of kindness and gratitude. Gratitude was actually probably one of the first, that was our first stepping stone. That was our gateway practice into mindfulness. I remember in my first year or second year of teaching, I think it was my second year of teaching. Yes, definitely my second year of teaching. I can visualize myself in my classroom the moment that I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so burnt out. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so tired. If I don't make a change, I'm not going to be able to last in this career. It's just not going to be possible. Or, I'm going to get really sick and my health is deteriorating because of it. So in that moment of feeling like enough is enough, I can't live this way anymore. I need to do something for myself. Gratitude was something that came to mind. I had heard people talking about it. It was kind of becoming more on my radar. And So I decided, okay, for the next week, I'm going to write at the end of each day, I'm going to write in my agenda, and it was in my teacher planner, 3 things that I'm grateful for from my day. And at the beginning, it was hard to figure out 3 things that I was grateful for. It was actually a challenge. And the more that I practiced it, the more that it became part of my daily routine, the more that I felt like I had to be grateful for. It became easier and easier to recognize the things that I was grateful for. And then all of a sudden I felt this momentum towards feeling better, feeling more appreciative, seeing things in a more positive light, because I had been seeing things although I always think of myself as a positive person, I was really seeing things in a negative light. When we're in the stress response, when we're feeling overwhelmed, it's really hard to see a different perspective. So this practice of gratitude that was forcing me to change my perspective, to look at things differently, to find things that I hadn't been noticing, really shifted things for me. And that's when I really started seeing the possibilities of how just small pockets of intentional self-care could make huge differences in my life, like huge dividends. I can't believe how much things changed after that. So gratitude is a wonderful practice to help you shift your emotions, to help you shift your perspective, and to pay more attention to the things that are good in your life. And one of Josiane and my favorite sayings is, the better it gets, the better it gets. That's almost like our motto in EduCalm is whenever something good happens, we always see that as like momentum towards more good. More good makes more good. The better it gets, the better it gets. So I invite you to practice saying that, because it feels good to have the perspective that good things lead to more good things. So in the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit, we have the journaling tool, the kindness and gratitude toolkit. And it's kind of like a bunch of prompts that you can choose from. So you can just quickly choose one of the prompts that guides you towards a gratitude or a kindness kind of activity. So it's all things that take 5 minutes or less. So some of them might only take you a minute or even 30 seconds, but it's small amount of time with big rewards. Now, the next self-care activity that is super important for us, that we love and that we decided to include in this toolkit, is movement. So when we're feeling big emotions, especially stress, a great way to process those emotion messengers in our bodies is to shift our state is with movement. So I really like to say that movement helps us digest big emotions, just like a walk can help us digest a big meal. You know, when you've eaten too much and you're like, oh, I just feel awful, I don't like how I'm feeling, and then you go for a walk and all of a sudden it gets things moving, you're digesting, your energy is shifting, and you feel so much better after. The same is true with our emotions. When we're feeling big emotions and it's bogging us down with these big emotions, movement really helps us to digest those emotions, shift our body, shift our mindset, shift our energy. So in the movement toolkit, what you'll find is a list of short and effective movements that you can do just about anywhere to help calm or energize you. So we've divided these movements, and they're things that you can do right where you are. You don't need space, you don't need extra equipment. They're just short, little movement exercises. You don't need to be an athlete to be able to do this. It's all very simple to do. But the beauty with this toolkit is that you don't have to make the decision. You don't have to decide, of the million movement activities I could do in the world, what should I choose? That decision fatigue gets taken away because we've created a just concise list and organized them between how you want to feel. So if you want to feel calm, you'll choose one of the movements from that category. If you want to feel energized, you'll choose one of the movements in the energized category. Next thing in our self-care teacher toolkit, and also, a tool that you can start using right away. You don't necessarily need the teacher toolkit to be able to do this. We just kind of simplify things for you with the toolkit. But Our mindset and our emotional state really begins with the words that we say to ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves. So when we're thinking something like, I have so much to do and not enough time, as soon as you say that, immediately you start feeling stressed and overwhelmed. So that story of I have not enough time and I have so much to do impacts how you feel and also your perspective, and then therefore the actions that you take. If you feel like you don't have enough time, you're going to act differently than if you tell yourself, I always have enough time. Even as I'm just saying this right now, repeat it to yourself. If you say, I have so much to do and not enough time, immediately I can feel in my body like this curling in, defeated feeling. When I say, I always have enough time. I always have enough time to do what's important for me. All of a sudden I feel this lightness and this upliftedness and like, I can do this feeling. So the way to shift these stories that we're telling ourselves, a really great tool is by using affirmations. So affirmations are short, positive statements that state how you want to feel as though you're already feeling that way. So even if you don't feel like you always have enough time, by saying, I always have enough time, you're creating that reality for yourself. You're creating this perspective that allows you to act in a way that you always have enough time. Does that make sense? So it's like, if you feel like you don't have enough time, you're going to act in a way that you don't have enough time. And so then you're going to not have enough time. But if you say to yourself, I always have enough time, you see your work as something that can be accomplished, and you don't waste energy on saying, oh, I'll never be able to finish this. You just get to it and you do it because you always have enough time. So in our affirmation toolkit, what you'll find is a list of affirmations to help you when you're feeling a specific feeling. So we have, again, categories like in the movement toolkit that you can choose from. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, you can go to that list and choose an affirmation that will help you to shift that feeling into a better feeling emotion. When you're feeling tired, you go to the tired affirmations and you choose one of those. If you're feeling like you aren't doing enough, which I would say lots of teachers feel this feeling like we can never do enough. There's always more that we wish that we could do. That can be so overwhelming. So we have affirmations to help you to do that. So you choose the affirmation and then you repeat it to yourself. You tell yourself that new story. So you can repeat it out loud. I like to write it down too. So sometimes I'll just write it down like I'm writing lines. As though I'm in detention and I'm writing lines, but it's for the good. Or you can write it on a sticky note and put it somewhere that you're going to see it often. Josiane and I both have like 5 affirmation sticky notes on our computers at all times. But the trick with that, if you have it on a sticky note, is that the goal is when you see it, then you repeat it to yourself. So you're actually reading it and you're actually feeling it. Now, the last thing in our toolkit, and again, this is something that you can start using right away, is podcast toolkit. So listening to podcasts. Podcasts are a great way to learn something new, to shift your perspective, to see things in a new way. And you can do it. You can listen to podcasts at any time. So this doesn't have to be something that you devote a ton of time to. You can listen to a podcast when you're walking the dog, when you're cooking, when you're eating your lunch, especially these days during COVID times, if you have to eat alone in your classroom and you can't gather in a lunchroom with your colleagues, listening to a podcast can be a way for you to really enjoy this present moment and not feel like you should be rushing to do something else. You can actually take that time for yourself. So the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit podcast toolkit obviously is going to take longer than 5 minutes, but it's something that you can sort of multitask with. So what we did in this toolkit is we created a list of our most useful podcast episodes to help you to de-stress, to reduce overwhelm, to feel better. So at this point in the podcast, this is episode 123. So we've got a lot of resources to choose from. It might feel overwhelming if you're like, okay, I want to listen to an episode of the Balanced Educator podcast. It might feel overwhelming to choose between all of the episodes that we have. So this list is going to give you, the best episodes to go to if you're feeling a certain way, and links to it. So you can just click on the link and it's going to bring you directly to that episode. It removes one more step. So our goal here is to remove as many barriers as we can to you practicing self-care during your day. All right. So hopefully I've mentioned something today that you can bring into your daily routine that's going to help you to de-stress in 5 minutes or less. If you are like, I love the idea of having a toolkit that is going to give me these strategies front of mind, front of center, so that I don't have to make the decision myself, or I don't have to search around for the right resources. It's all in one place. Then I invite you to get the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit. So to get the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit, go to educalm.com and click on the training tab. So in the training tab, we have a bunch of different training resources for you. The Self-Care Teacher Toolkit is there for you. And when you purchase the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit, you have access to that resource forever. So for those of you that have Educalm Classroom, or maybe you have the trial to Educalm Classroom, you'll be familiar with when you sign into our website, you go into your member area and you see Educalm Classroom there. When you get the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit, you'll then have the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit right next to your Educalm Classroom resource. So it's kind of like you've got self-care wellness for your classroom and then self-care and wellness for yourself right next to each other. Now, exciting news, if you are listening to this episode before March 30th, 2021, we have a fun promotion to kind of celebrate the launching of this resource, the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit. If you purchase an Educalm Classroom subscription, so a subscription to our social emotional learning and mindfulness program, we will give you the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit for free. So if you've been kind of on the fence, wanting to buy the Educalm Classroom program to use in your classroom with your students so that you have ready to use resources every day for practicing mindfulness and social emotional learning in the classroom. In both languages, it's bilingual. So if you've been kind of on the fence, maybe this is the time to pull the trigger and get your Educalm Classroom membership, because then you'll also get the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit for free. Now, if you already have Educalm Classroom and you're like, I still want the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit, you can absolutely purchase it on its own. So to get an Educalm Classroom membership, go to educalm.com and sign up for your Educalm Classroom membership. When you do that before March 31st, 2021, then we will send you a code to get the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit for free. If you just want to purchase the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit, go to educalm.com and then click on the training tab and you'll find the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit there. So the Self-Care Teacher Toolkit is kind of your grab bag of wellness strategies for when you want to process or shift your emotions. So you just have to log in, choose a toolkit, and then you can de-stress in 5 minutes or less. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. We appreciate you so much, and we feel so grateful to have you as part of this mindful community of educators, the Educalm community. If you got value from this episode, we invite you to share it with a colleague or a friend that you think might enjoy this free resource too. Have a wonderful week and a happy new year. Wishing you all the best in 2021.